So, the engines are fired. We're going to have 50 minutes of racing for GTS. And on the pole position from the Italian part of Switzerland will be Gabriella Piana. The pace car is pulling away at the front. That's one of the classic BMW M6s, I believe. And the field of cars will be right behind them very shortly. Let's start at the back of the grid with 27 starters for this race. In the 27th position, in car number 43 for Ian Lacey Racing, the Ginetta G55 of Steve Burns. Row 13 of the grid, car number 92, Chris Omacht in a number 92 BMW M4 GT4. That's one of the fast track racing classic BMW machines. And the teammate of Steve Burns, Frank Gannett, in car number 24 for Ian Lacey Racing, the second of the Ginetta G55s, will start on the 25th position. Row 12 of the grid, Gar Robinson from Texas in a Robinson Racing Mercedes AMG GT4, that is car number 74. Alongside him, another Canadian, Ori Fidani, car number 13 for Pfaff Motorsports, that's a Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR. Row 11 on the grid, Justin Raphael, another classic BMW M4 GT4, that's car number 17 for Justin Raphael. And alongside him, James Pezic in the Ford Mustang GT4 for PF Racing, that's car number 40. Row 10 on the outside, car number 23 is Adam Merzen in the K-Sit Racing by Flying Lizard Audi R8 LMS GT4. And then ahead of him on the grid, the Precision Driving BMW M4 GT4, Marko Radizic, originally from Serbia, now from Clearwater in car number 22. Row 9 of the grid on the outside, Ian James in the Team Paynos Racing, Paynos Alvezzano GT4, that is car number 50. Ian James had a disappointing weekend here 1 year ago. He DNF'd, did not finish either of the races, but came back strong later in the season with what was then a brand new car. Won 6 races in 2017, and he'll be one of the championship favourites this year. Alongside him, car number 69, the Sin R1 for Racer Edge Motorsports, that's Harry Gottsacker. Row 8, Preston Calvert, number 51, Panos Avezzano GT4, and the McLaren 570S GT4 for KPR, Mark Clennon in car number 62. Row 7, car number 99, Jeff Courtney in the JCR Motorsports Maserati Gran Turismo MC GT4, and a Black Dog Racing Chevrolet Camaro GT4, car number 11, Tony Gaples. Row 6 on the outside, Nate Stacey in a Ford Mustang GT4 for Core Motorsports, that's car number 52. And car number 72, the second of the Ranch 74 Robinson Racing Mercedes, is Shane Lewis. I thought we were going to have 2 pace cuts. I was wrong. We have 1. And the green flag is out. They're racing down towards turn 1. The front row starter, Giorgio Piana, just about holds off ahead of James Sophronis and Lawson Aschenbach, making a move in the Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet.
Well, they worked their way through only 1 pace lap. I think they're trying to hurry up and get this race started and underway here. Traditionally 2 pace laps, but they did a race bulletin out with only 1. As they come down here to the inside, you can see Jason Bell looking to the inside as everybody's trying to get their way through. This thing is Nate Stacey there to the outside in his Mustang. You can really see some of the windshield wipers on. It is starting to rain a little bit. It takes kind of a big downpour on a normal race circuit for them really to need rains. We're on a street circuit here. Once the water hits that paint on all these lines, Jeremy, it gets a little slick.
It certainly does. And I tell you what, the temperature has dropped dramatically, hasn't it, in the last half an hour or so. It's pretty cool out here now, and conditions will be pretty slippery for these drivers. But a great start by our pole sitter there, Gabriella Piana in car number 21. That's the Mueller Motorsports Porsche Cayman. But all over the back end of that is the Chevy Camaro of Lawson Aschenbach, defending series champion from the east coast of Florida. He's got plenty of horsepower on the front straight, heading towards turn 1. It's still Piana who leads. Aschenbach in second place. In third is James Sophronis, who started in the second position in a GMG Audi car number 14. Behind him is Jade Buford at number 55, PF Racing Ford Mustang GT4.
Lawson Aschenbach pressuring right down to the inside. Gabriel Piana makes the move, goes to the inside. I think Gabriel said, well, I'm just going to let him go ahead and have that one a little bit there. Right back on the back bumper. They touch as it comes down through the inside. That's
experience there for Lawson Aschenbach. He knows how to win around this racetrack. He's done it before. He's a 5-time champion in the Pirelli World Challenge. and he was taking advantage there of those slippery conditions in the early stages of this race. Headlights ablaze there for Piana in second place, but it's Lawson Eichenbach that leads in the Chevrolet. The Porsche of Piana in second place, the Audi third, the Ford fourth, another Ford in the fifth position. That's Vinny Allegretta in car number 10, ahead of Nick Staveley, who is the GTSA leader in car number 12. That's a Ginetta G55. Second place in the AM category actually is George Kurtz in car number 04, the champion in GTSA from 2017.
See the cars there. Oh, there's Harry Gottsecker, unfortunately, in that Sin R1 GT4 that's coming on to Dan Weldon Boulevard, right on the shoreline where the marina is. He'll get that car in reverse. He just has to wait for a gap that's going to bar him all the way back to the back of the field.
Jason Bell from Tampa is inside the top 10 in the number 2 M1 GT Racing Audi R8 LMS GT4, another brand new car in this field. A great start there for Jason to get up into the 8th position, away from the start ahead of Shane Lewis, a veteran from Jupiter, Florida, in a number 72 Mercedes GT4.
See if we can get a replay here and see what happens with Harry Gottsecker. Oh, right to the inside. Looks like that was Ian James. Got down to the inside of Harry Gottsecker, made some contact, got that car spun around. Getting word from race control, however, that he is still stopped there on the track. So we'll have to see if he can get that cleared off. Coming around through. Looks like the lead pack got through okay. It looks like Harry did get back underway. So good job for him as he comes back across the line. Trying to stay on the lead lap. A
distant last position there for Harry Gottsecker, the youngster, just 18 years of age, from New Braunfels, Texas, driving that Racers Edge Motorsports Sin R1. It's a fast car, but unfortunately he's got an awful lot of work to do now. But in the lead of the race is Lawson Eichenbach in that number 1 Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro GT4. Gabriele Piano in second place, but battle for third now as Jade Buford looks to the inside down in turn 1. Can he make it stick?
No.
There's contact, and around goes the Audi of James Safronis.
Yeah, James Safronis got to the inside there, closed the door. Jade was presented on the inside there. They made contact again. They're going to back up here, and that's going to be devastating. Now, once again, probably Smar back middle of the pack here as both cars get back underway.
And more battling further back, that's Drew Staveley making a move there on Vinny Allegretta. That would be for now probably for third place, actually, with those third and fourth place cars revolving together. Well, one of them spun in turn 1, and he ended up absolutely nose to nose there. So the car that was behind Jade Buford had been trying to make that pass. Couldn't go anywhere. I mean, he had to find reverse gear. That took him longer than he would have anticipated.
Well,
so he's got to restart at the back of the field now.
And I really can't think about what a worse situation to make contact with a guy, and now you're facing him nose to tail. You guys are both opposite. I'm sure they were telling each other who was number 1 the whole time there on the exit of turn number 1, but they got both those cars back underway. Oh, and looks like James Pesic there off in one of the runoffs. There's the number 40 PF Racing Mustang. 3 cars strong here with those Mustangs there. Is that PF Racing? It stands for Pesic Family Racing, and it goes Dad JR leading the way. Jay Buford, James, and then Vinny Allegretta. 3 cars, but that is George Kurtz looking to the inside here. Going to go on the inside of Vinny Allegretta.
Really nice move there from the Audi, brand new Audi this season for that CrowdStrike entry of George Kurtz. A really fine move. He won last year's GTSA category, had 9 wins on the season. From Paradise Valley, Arizona is George Kurtz, and doing a fine job. That was a really good move to the inside to take away that position. But the first 2, Lawson Eichenbach and Gabriele Piana, now a huge lead over Drew Staveley in third place for Ian Lacey Racing. That little British-built Ginetta G55.
Got word from race control. Drive-through penalty for Jade Buford in the number 55. Incident responsibility with James Safronis. Obviously not alongside enough of the Global Motorsports Group Audi to have that incident. Sort of looked a little bit like maybe James might have shut the door a little bit. I kind of think he was right to the inside there, but they're claiming that Jade Buford was incident responsibility. Word is if they stop in the pit box to check for damage and has to that's what he's doing. He's looking for damage in the pit box. That does not count as his drive-through penalty. He still has to go back out on track and then do a drive-through to serve that drive-through penalty.
So 5 laps completed in this 50-minute race. We've still got over 40 minutes remaining, and there's certainly more spots of rain falling here. It's the skies are looking darker, and it's getting a lot colder as well. The wind picking up. It's going to be really treacherous if the rain does come with any conviction here. At the moment, it's just sort of a light dusting, if you like, or a sprinkling of rain. Certainly nothing significant at this stage. All these cars out there on slick Pirelli tyres, so if it does rain, it'll be really, really treacherous. And even now, with these much cooler temperatures, the cars will be sliding around quite a bit.
There goes Jade Buford back out onto the track after the crew checks the car out. He'll lose a lap, and unfortunately he has to come back around again and then do a drive-through penalty back through the pit lane. So not ideal start for his championship contention here. As see a lot of the crews down here getting those rain tires ready. They have the air hoses out. Now, assuming there's no lightning and it doesn't have a complete flood here, teams will have to make the decision on when they want to come down pit lane. The officials aren't going to throw a caution and let it come down. So we'll have to see what happens here with the rain.
That's right. Unless there's a sudden downpour, then they would throw probably a caution flag, maybe even a red actually. But if it just it continues to intensify at the level it is right now, i.e. little by little, then you're right. It'll be up to the teams to make their decision. We could see some spots of rain now on a camera lens at turn 2 there. The weather appears to be coming in from the southwest, as is normal here on the west coast of Florida. And Michael Young was good enough to call up a radar screen just a few moments ago. Had a look at that. The most of it, the majority of the rain seems to be to our south, so we'll hope that we stay dry here.
See Mike Hedlund there in that number 45 Flying Lizard Audi R8 LMS, and of course Mike Hedlund is donating $1 if he gets a win to all of his Twitter followers, which now stand at 3,032. So if you want to follow Mike Hedlund on Twitter, it's going to donate all the money to a local charity. If he gets on the podium in the M category, he'll donate 50 cents per Twitter follower. So it could be $3,000-4,000 before we're done here per race at each of the events. So really appreciate Mike Hedlund doing that. And go to Twitter, search for him right now.
Yeah, there's a view of him coming off turn 14. Now he's currently running in the 9th position overall and 4th place in GTSA at the moment. But he's in the middle of a biggish pack of cars heading down towards turn 1. And even though the sprinkles of rain are intensifying just a little bit, the pace is increasing at the front of the field. A new fastest lap of the race, well actually 2 laps ago by Lawson Aschenbach, 1:19.458. But on this last lap, he was only 0.004 of a second slower. Remarkable consistency there for Lawson Aschenbach, 1:14.462 this time around. And that is a new race lap record here for GTS. That record stood previously to Dean Martin, who's one of the team principals at Core Motorsports, running the car for Nate Stacey this afternoon. 1:19.478 was the old lap record. 1:19.458, the new standard now by our race leader Lawson Aschenbach. But Aschenbach hasn't been able to pull out much. It still is Gabriele Piano is right there in second place. Maybe 10 or 12 car lengths between those two as they head towards turn 1. And there's one of the Ginettas, that's Frank Gannett.
Frank Gannett, that's at the exit of turn number 3. That's high speed there. And you can see it's actually moved the wall a little bit over there. That's a huge impact.
And that is going to be a caution.
Ginetta G5, that's going to have to go to a full course yellow, unfortunately. We'll see if we can get a replay here. And there it was. Just got a little bit in, got the car loose. And smacked it into the wall there. Oh, you see just the hit there. Just got that car a little bit out, got in the marbles there with the rain as slick as it is.
Yeah,
knocked the wing off of it.
Strange, I'm not sure whether there was any contact with the left-hand side of the wall as he turned into turn 3, or
it looked like he was a little bit late, I think.
Well, it also looked like the rear end of the car was steering itself at that stage. So whether there was a failure before or afterwards, not 100% sure, but certainly it was a heavy impact for Frank Gannett, and that will bring out the full course caution flags with just under 40 minutes remaining in this race.
Well, Priest, right before we had that full course yellow here, Ian James and the Panos Avisano did a drive-through penalty for that incident responsibility with a contact with Harry Gottsecker and his Racers Edge Motorsports in R1. He did serve his penalty, and that's going to really help him and Jay Buford, who both had drive-through penalties, kind of bunch that field back up here as soon as we get Frank Gannett's car cleared off, to give him more of a chance to catch back up here.
Well, it would do, but Jay Buford clearly had some damage in that earlier incident, because he appears to be, he's several laps down, and I don't think he's running at the moment. But as the race leaders come across the start-finish line now under caution, greatly reduced speed. Still lost margin back from Gabriella Piana, who set the fastest lap of the race on the previous lap before this full course caution, a 1 minute 19.256. That is a new lap record here for GTS. And that whoever sets the fastest lap of today's race will start on the pole position for tomorrow. In fact, the grid positions for tomorrow morning's second round of the GTS Championship will be set according to each car's fastest lap during this 50-minute race. So it's Drew Stavely, still the teammate of Frank Gannett, who now runs in third position ahead of George Kurtz in the 04 car. Those two are first and second in GTSA. The non-professional drivers. Vinny Allegretta in fifth position in car number 10. That's on the PF Racing Ford Mustang, so he's kind of picking up the slack left by Jade Buford, who was involved in that incident a little while ago. Jason Bell from Tampa, Florida in sixth position now in the M1 GT Racing Audi. Good job, good run by Jason here this afternoon. Shane Lewis up to seventh from Jupiter, Florida. Then the Texan Toby Grahovec in the number 26 BMW. Mike Headland, number 45 Audi, and Nate Stacey up inside the top 10 now in the Core Motorsports Ford Mustang.
You talked about that damage that Jay Buford had before that PF Racing Ford Mustang. Just got word on pit lane that Ford Mustang Jay Buford that you mentioned in the earlier damage, suspension damage, has to retire from the race. So devastating for his championship run as he was looking to get his way started off right here in St. Petersburg. As you see, Marco Radisek, that number 22 precision driving BMW M4 GT4, one of these new GT4 platforms here in the Pirelli World Challenge with that M4. Of course, Marco, based out here in Sarasota, Florida, ran GT Cup here last year in his Ferrari 458 GT3 Italia, and now he's racing in that new GT4.
Yes, he is.
Some local to cheer, including Jason Bell. What a superb drive, sixth place in that M1 GT Audi R8 LMS, who ran the Sin R1 team last year in his rookie season, and now sitting here in sixth place. Superb drive for him.
Certainly is. He had an eighth place finish in the opening round of the championship here 1 year ago, did Jason Bell, but now running, as you say, in the top six. So an improvement from last year. A really good job by Jason there in sixth position. And mentioned Nate Stacey, number 52 Ford Mustang, back in the 10th position at the moment, but we know Nate's fast. He's still only 18 years of age. He was the youngest ever pole sitter and race winner in PWC history, Pirelli World Challenge history, back in how many years ago now? That was 4 years ago. I guess he was 14, wasn't he?
14 years old. He made his debut in a Ford Fiesta B-Spec car, actually.
B-Spec, that's right, yes. Indeed, he's worked his way up the ladder in Pirelli World Challenge, now in the GTS category, and with Core Motorsports at Ford Mustang. They had some problems yesterday. They broke a drive shaft in the first session and cost him a lot of track time, and he wasn't happy at all for qualifying this morning. The car was understeering much more than he'd appreciated, so they made wholesale changes to the setup of that car coming into this race. So hopefully it's somewhat better for Jason Bell. Just looking at his best lap in the race so far. It's a 121.3, which is on a par with pretty much all the cars from fourth place on back, because it's the two leaders are the only cars in the 19s. Drew Stavely in third position, his best lap, a 120.6. That's a big margin from the first two to the rest of the field.
Looking to see where I see James Sofronis is back in the 15th position, running in second place a little or third place a little bit earlier on with that incident with Jade Buford. He's recovered and worked his way back up. This is going to be a huge help to him with this yellow flag to see if he can work his way back through the field. Did you see a good shot of James in that Global Motorsports Group Audi R8?
And he has set the third fastest lap of the race so far, James Sofronis, in at number 14 Audi, running in the 15th position, 120.1. Also almost identical, 120.2 for Ian James. You were talking about just a few moments ago in at number 50, Penos Avanzano That's another driver that had a drive-through penalty a little while ago. He's back in a 20th position in car number 50, so he's got a lot of work to do, but as we saw last year, that car is super fast, and he's now going to have an opportunity to move his way through the field when we get back to green.
Going to have to check out and see what we have for Frank Gannett in that Ginetta G55. Ian Lacey Racing, 3 cars strong with Steve Burns, and your third place now, first in our AM category, Drew Stavely. So a good debut here in Pirelli World Challenge for them in the 2018 season. Then an abbreviated season last season with Frank Gannett and Drew Stavely, and then adding Steve Burns to the mix here for this season. It's a pretty good program they have based out in Utah Motorsports Campus, the old Miller Motorsports Park, and just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. So coming all the way to Florida for that race, and I think stop back by on the way to Texas for round number 2 in a couple weeks, and then back over to Utah. Nice little spring break trip here to Florida for that team.
Yeah, I'm sure they're hoping for rather better weather than we got right now, actually.
Speaking of which, do you have a jacket somewhere? I mean,
yeah, it's in the truck.
Oh, okay, because, yeah, woo. Look at a little...
I tell you what, the temperature suddenly dropped. It was fine for the GT race a little while ago, but all of a sudden the temperature dropped as the precipitation moved in, and still nothing more than a very light, a few spots here and there at the moment. Nothing significant, thankfully. And hopefully that rain will stay primarily to our south and give us it stays away for another half an hour or so. That'll be good, and then hopefully another 10 minutes before I get to the car. No, I'm fine, Michael. Thank you very much.
Oh, Michael Young, he's got 2 jackets. So Michael Young takes one of his jackets off and gives it to Jeremy Shaw here.
He was bright enough to bring his jacket, so he deserves to keep it.
He would lay it in a puddle for a lady and give it to an English gentleman in the broadcast booth. Michael Young, everybody. How about that? Good round of applause for him up here in our PA booth. Sitting here at the top of the grandstands, right on the front stretch, watching live at world-challenge.com and our YouTube channel. Follow along at World Challenge. Just search Pirelli World Challenge Championships on YouTube and our Facebook page. You can follow along on Instagram and Twitter as well. So a lot of good coverage here, all part of the Pirelli World Challenge. This race for the GTS competition you can see on our expanded coverage on CBS Sports Network, March 24th at 9:30 Eastern time. So make sure you set your DVRs or your watch parties right now to check out our GTS competition, March 24th, 9:30 Eastern on CBS Sports Network.
Lawson Aschenbach then it is who leads this race from Palm Beach Gardens in Florida over on the east coast of the state. 24 wins to his credit in the Pirelli World Challenge coming into this weekend, and 114 starts. That's a pretty stout win ratio, isn't it? 24 out of 114. And also a 5-time champion in the Pirelli World Challenge. Remarkably, for 4 different manufacturers. He's won the championships for Porsche, for Cadillac, for Chevrolet, and for Honda. That's a remarkable statistic for Lawson Aschenbach. Still only 34 years of age as well, and does an awful lot of racing. He's out there hustling away, trying to get rides in all sorts of different series. Huge amount of experience. He, like many of these drivers, started out in open-wheel cars, but has found a home in sports car racing and has made a really, really good career for himself. Yeah,
not even in other series he's trying to find rides. He's trying to do it here. He's trying to see if he can get himself a GT ride for the Long Beach Grand Prix coming up in the middle of April. So it's a lot of moving and shakers, and you cannot really have, I think, a better brand ambassador for your race team or car than Lawson Aschenbach. Doing such a great job here in that Black Dog Speed Shop. There's number 1 on the side of that Camaro for a reason, and with all 7 categories amongst the Pirelli World Challenge, the team or driver that collects the most points amongst all the classes gets the distinguished of that number 1 panel, and that was Lawson Aschenbach's team last season. He got more points than any other team across all the categories. So I think it's sort of easy to do once you split up the GT category with the Sprint and the Sprint X now. So Lawson able to do that, and I think we're looking at the stats here. I think he only finished off the podium a few times all season long.
Yeah, 12 times out of 18 races last year for Lawson Aschenbach. Only 2 wins. It took him to round 11 before he finally won a race, and he also ended up the season with a victory at Sonoma Raceway as well. So it was a great year all around for Lawson. You'd have certainly liked more than 1 win going into the final race of the season, but it looks a lot more respectable on your resume when you've got 2 wins to your credit when you come away as the champion. But it was a remarkable consistency. The first 10 races of the season, or first 12 races of the season, only once did he fail to finish on the podium, and that indeed was a 5th place finish as well. So it was that consistency along with his speed that won that 5th Pirelli World Challenge title for Lawson Aschenbach. He's looking to get this 2018 season underway in the same vein as well. Out in lead of this race, still under caution. Just under half an hour remaining now in this race, but plenty of time for us to get back to green. I don't think it'll be too long before the yellow flags are withdrawn and we get back to racing. The lights are still on that classic BMW at safety car at the front of the field, with everybody else itching to get back to racing action behind them.
There's that number 72, 74 Ranch Racing is Shane Lewis, 2 cars strong with Gar Robinson behind him, and the number 74, new addition here to the Pirelli World Challenge. Good to have them show up and all season long campaign. And another driver that we talk about, Shane Lewis, driving pretty much everything that has wheels, was the Palm Beach International Raceway ambassador, so to speak, there at the Radical Driving School, giving rides around in nearby Florida. And like I said, 2-car program strong with the young Gar Robinson behind the wheel, the 74.
Yep, son of the team principal, George Robinson, who had a long history in sports car racing as well. I think amongst his many things was a victory at Sebring for George back in the day, I think.
And I believe Shane's had some success around here too, back in the mid-90s, running a variety of different cars. That weird, Mosler or something like that he ran in the mid-90s, or Mosler, I think. Crazy cars, but it's neat to see Shane Lewis still out here and joining in the Pirelli World Cup. Ran the Trans Am Series the last couple of years and still racing in the Trans Am Series this season.
Yeah, finished third in the Trans Am 2 category last season, and he made his debut in the Pirelli World Challenge way back in '96 when he drove one of the Mosler cars, which are also built in Florida, weren't they? He had some success in those cars. One at Minneapolis, actually had 3 wins that season, the last one coming at Sonoma. That was his most recent win in the championship way back in 1996. Still struggling to get Frank Gannett's car onto the flatbed. I think that car might need before it's got brought back to the pits. It's been a long day for all of our corner workers here. Thanks to everybody there and all of the volunteers who make it possible for us to go racing here on the streets of St. Petersburg.
Saw the damage to Frank Gannett's car. He was sort of stuck in the wall. They got the car free. They tried to tow it as they lifted it up and pull it. They were not able to do that, and now they decided they needed to get the rollback because the damage was a little too extensive on the back of his Ginetta G55. And I got a chance actually in the off-season to go to Ginetta factory in Leeds, England, and that was a pretty cool trip to get to go there and tour their facility and see where they build these cars. They actually have a street version of the G55 that they sell in Europe, and they have a whole cup class, and they also have a young teen driving race class as well with the Ginettas. So it's pretty neat to see all the way to an LMP 3, 2, and 1 now that they're building with Ginetta. So it was a cool trip and a cool tour. I was glad to be there, and really appreciate Ginetta doing that for me.
Yeah, that's right. Ginetta really does do a lot for the development of young drivers. There's a youngster who's competing in the USF 2000 Championship this weekend, making his debut this weekend. Jamie Caroline, who came up through the Ginetta Junior Series. He won that a couple of years ago. He won last year's British Formula 4 Championship, and then did a very late deal. I mean, literally, the deal was done last weekend. He'd never driven one of the USF 2000 cars before this weekend here on the streets of St. Petersburg. And then halfway through the qualifying session yesterday, he was on the provisional pole position. Unfortunately, that's the good news, because he then hit the wall and ended up qualifying, I think, 7th or 8th. But in this morning's race, he got it up to 2nd place and then hit the wall again. But still, the point is, Ginetta has a very stout young driver program, and there's a lot of really, really talented drivers who come up driving Ginetta Junior cars.
And even in our Pirelli World Challenge Series, young Parker Chase, Harry Gottsecker got their start here in Pirelli World Challenge in Ginettas. So it's, like you said, that what they've done for the young drivers and moved them up. And it's good to see, as it looks like we did get Frank Gannett's car on the back of the rollback. That'll get cleared. Not sure where the cars are on the track right now behind our safety car. Of course, the BMW M4 GTS, driven by our own Dan Goodman behind our pace car today. I want to appreciate BMW for giving us that BMW, and classic BMW supporting that car as well.
Yeah, I wish you told me he was only going to do 1 pace lap rather than 2 before the start, so I didn't get through the grid before. My apologies for that. I was taking my time. Should have known better, shouldn't I? I've been around this sport long enough.
You never know. Subject to change without notice at any time.
Absolutely right. Let's get it underway. Maybe doing the one fewer lap in order to try and get in before the rain comes. I don't know. Anyhow, still under caution. Probably with a bit of luck, just one more lap before we get back to racing, I would hope. But it's still race being led by Lawson Eichenbach in that number 1 Black Dog Speed Shop Chevrolet Camaro GT4. Car made its debut here last year with a pair of second place finishes, including the pole for Lawson Eichenbach, which then was a new track record in qualifying. It's he who leads now from Gabriella Piana in second place, number 21 Porsche. Third place, Drew Stavely in the Ginetta G55, car number 12, leading the AM category ahead of George Kurtz, who's right behind him in second place in AM, and fourth position overall in car number 04. That's an Audi. Behind him, Vinny Allegretta in car number 10, a Ford Mustang. Behind him, the local driver from Tampa, Florida, Jason Bell, in the Audi car number 2. And Shane Lewis from Jupiter, Florida, car number 72. That's the Mercedes GT4. Toby Grahovec in the BMW car number 26. Mike Headland in the Flying Lizard Audi car number 45. And Nate Stacey in the number 52 Mustang round out the top 10. In the back, beyond the outside of the top 10, Jeff Courtney in car number 99. That's the Maserati. Then Tony Gaples, who finished second in last year's GTSA category in a Chevrolet Camaro car number 11. Then another Florida resident, Marko Radozic, in car number 22. That's another BMW.
Pace car lights are off. 21 minutes to go, probably when they cross the line here. Getting ready to go back underway. Green flag coming out as they enter the acceleration zone. VP Fuel coming up here as they come down the pit straight here, or the runway, so to speak, and go to take off. Getting the green flag here. We'll enter our VP Fuel acceleration zone. Will be Lawson Eichenbach. It's his decision when he wants to go, when he's in that zone.
He's out of here.
Does. Green flag, and he is gone. Boy, Gabriel Panini really, Piana got kind of held up a little bit. Drew Staley, look at the run George Kurtz does down to the inside.
Yeah, Drew Staley left it a little bit late there to block to the inside. Kurtz, is he going to be able to hold it together at the apex of the corner? He slides a little bit wide, no, loses both of those positions again, but a great move by George Kurtz. Wasn't able to complete it, but that was a bold move down to the inside. It's now Stavely back into third place, but Lawson Eichenbach, that was a clinic of how to restart a race here to the Swiss-Italian for Gabriella Piana, and a huge lead as they came across the line for Lawson Eichenbach.
You see the battle with Mike Headland, Nate Stacey, and right in front of him, I believe that was, I'm not sure who dropped all the way back there. I think Vinny Algaretta got a terrible start as he goes all the way back to the 9th position when he was up there in the top 5.
Yeah, Mike Headland, I think, was a bit of a, he made maybe 1 or 2 places as well. This car looks very similar, actually, doesn't it, though, to George Kurtz. It is silver and red as opposed to white and red, but in this light, they look very similar indeed, those two Audi R8 LMS GT4 cars. In the meantime, they're coming off the final corner, heading towards the start-finish line. To complete lap 18 is Lawson Eichenbach with a pretty handy margin now, with a couple of seconds over Gabriella Piana. And Drew Stavely hanging right there in third place. George Kurtz in fourth. In fifth now is Jason Bell, the local driver, ahead of Shane Lewis. Behind Shane Lewis, Toby Grahovec in the best of the BMWs, the Vinny Allegretta, as you say, dropped 4 positions on that lap, back to the 8th or 9th positions ahead of Mike Headland and Nate Stacey.
Ian James picked up 6 positions on that first lap after the caution flag, going back into the field. He had moved his way back up to about 18th after that drive-through penalty, and then the car stopped on the front stretch during the pace lap. He got the car refired and back underway, but that put him all the way to the back as Mark Clinton a little deep into the braking zone in his premier copier McLaren 570S GT4. Not sure if he's having a braking problem there, but he was able to get back underway. Big scary moment for him, I'm sure. Yeah,
new colours on that car this season. There's Ian James. He seems to be off the pace, doesn't he, at the far end of the racetrack? Yes, he is. Number 50, Penos Avanzano GT, is off the pace. Slows dramatically going through turns 7 and 8. He's going to try and get that car.
Continued through 7 and 8. He is off
on the racetrack. Is he on the racetrack, or is he able to get it off? I hope he'll be able to get it off the racing line. Right now, though, that's in a pretty dangerous location on the apex, right before the apex of turn 8.
You can see him trying to restart that car. The lights going on and off, trying to get it re-going.
Not sure if that's going to happen, but working hard to make it happen.
Really good lap there from Gabriel Piana, right down in the 19s, 1:19.9 that time for Piana. That he closed up more than a second on Lawson Aschenbach on that lap. He's still about a second behind him, but he pretty much halved the deficit last time around. James Sifronis also making his move up the order as well, up into 12th place now, having taken the restart in, I think he was, where was he, 15th was he, or somewhere back down the order, and that number 14 car of James Sifronis now creeping closer towards the top 10 again, having been involved in an incident in turn 1 earlier in the race.
And he's right behind Jeff Courtney. Of course, Jeff Courtney racing in that X Analytics Kinda Rexstuff.com Maserati. Gran Turismo, so to speak, is what they call that car, the Maserati. And Jeff Courtney's campaigned this car for about 3 seasons now in the Maserati. And side by side, as they were down in turn number 1, Courtney just closed the door before. Now Sifronis gets back there. Courtney going back to the outside, seeing if he can make the move. Does not want to give up that position as Ian James was able to get his car back underway, but race officials calling him in. They want him to look at that car in pit lane to make sure it's all right before that. And Gabriel Piana is starting to close the gap a little bit to Lawson Aschenbach. Now he's got it down to just a little over a second.
Yeah, both of those two leaders now in the 19s last time, and 1 minute 19.6 for Piana. Aschenbach at 1:19.8, so able to stem the tide a little bit on that last lap. Aschenbach is having to push hard here to maintain that advantage. It's now down to just about 1 second between first and second, and a little bit of a gap back, a couple of seconds back to Drew Stavely in third, George Kurtz, and Jason Bell running superbly well in 5th position. And he's looking to score his best ever result, his previous best so far. He made his debut last season, but he is his best finish so far has been a 6th at VIR last year.
You see Shane Lewis under pressure by Toby Grahovic is coming down Wilton Boulevard here on the side of the marina. Grahovic, these are 2 of those brand new GT4s, of course, with Grahovic in that BMW M4 GT4 right behind that 74 Ranch Racing machine of Shane Lewis as they come down through the chicane into turn number 14. Hard on the brakes, and down there, as you see, Mike Headland now, Nate Stacey, James Sifronis. The battle really heating up there, and I got to think Shane Lewis maybe holding that line up a little bit as they come down the straightaway here.
Yeah, from 6th on back, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, all across the line, just like that. So there's very little to choose between any of those cars. A whole bunch of different machinery out there as well. There's a Mercedes, there's BMW, there's Ford, there's Audi, there's Maserati as well, and the Chevrolet of Tony Gaples, a big long train of cars.
And now Shane's not, I don't mean to say he's holding them up, it's just that car does not look happy under the braking area or under acceleration, stepping out a little bit. And that's a brand new car for that team, still trying to get acclimated through it. We know Shane can do that behind the wheel. He's still doing a good job to defend that position against Toby Grahovic. James Sifronis working his way through. He's right behind Nate Stacey. Nate's got his own battle going on with Mike Headland. It's that big battle now from, like you said, all the way back to 7th, all the way to 12th.
Yeah, and Sifronis trying to make his way forward, isn't he? And there he's Nate Stacey defends the inside position down into turn 10. No way through there for Sifronis. Meanwhile, the 2 leaders come across the line one more time. They're stretching their legs now, pulling away from Drew Stavely in 3rd position. And 2 really good laps there by the leaders. Lawson Aschenbach at 1:19.469 almost matches his best lap of the race so far. And Gabriele Piana pretty much does the same. 1 minute 19.266, just 100th away from his fastest lap of the race set by anybody so far in this contest. With what now, we're under 14 minutes remaining in this race.
Yeah, Piana has closed the gap a little bit. Oh, the Cayman steps out a little bit there through the bumps, pushing as hard as he can in that Mueller Motorsports H&R Springs Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport MR. Talk about a title for a race car. That was a heck of a one with those Porsche Caymans. We saw those cars campaigned last season by Flying Lizard Motorsports in the Porsche Caymans, and now Mueller Motorsports and then Pfaff Automotive campaigning as well for Piana. So it's pretty neat to see these cars competing on that GT4 level, and that Porsche Cayman is the bar that is set for this category. So if you're a little faster than the Cayman, they slow you down. If you're not as fast as the Cayman, they kind of speed you up. So that's sort of the baseline vehicle for this GT4 category.
That's right, but that Porsche Cayman, it looks small in comparison to the Chevrolet, and indeed it is. It weighs about 200 pounds less than the Chevrolet, and that, particularly in warmer conditions, will take more of a toll on a heavier car in terms of its tyres. The Porsche are able to look after its tyres a little bit better, but with the cooler conditions right now, that's certainly playing into the hands of Lawson Archenbach, and he's doing a superb job. He's just actually turned the fastest lap of the race as our race leader, Lawson Archenbach, as we see one of the Audis running a little bit wide in turn one.
It is James Safranis. Earlier, he had a problem, backed off, lost 3 positions, came down in turn number 1 and completely blew the corner and had to get back underway. So not sure if he's having braking problems there in his Audi, but trying to see if he can recover. He slotted in between Tony Gaples, the team owner at Black Dog Speed Shop, with their overall leader, Lawson Archenbach, and then Marco Radicic in his BMW M4 GT4.
So just a second between our race leaders, Lawson Archenbach and Gabriele Piana, for that new fastest race, that new lap record for Lawson Archenbach at 1:19.201. That is a really good lap at this stage in the race in particular, but still there's just 4 or 5 car lengths between them as they head off towards turn one more time. Clearly though, the Chevy Camaro able to stretch its legs on the straight, pull out a little bit, then under braking, a much lighter Porsche pulls up onto the tail, onto the wing of that Corvette, but not quite close enough to look for a way past. Jason Bell pretty much on his own now in 5th position, but next in the road is Shane Lewis. He certainly isn't on his own because he's got a train of 4 or 5 other cars right in his wheel tracks.
Oh, what a battle for the lead now as it's starting to heat up as Gabriele Piana right on the back bumper now of Lawson Archenbach here, trying to see. It seems Lawson gets off the corner a little bit easier. The torque of that Chevy Camaro against the lighter, nimble Porsche Cayman. The Porsche able to mid-corner and better downforce as he comes down through these exit or middle of the corner, but Lawson just has that torque coming off. I think Piana's going to have to make a big move if he's going to want to get around Lawson Archenbach.
Yeah, and is he going to upset the street? Because I don't think we've had a pole sitter today who's won a race. In fact, we haven't. So Piana, he started on the pole here for this race, but he's running in 2nd place now, and he's he will know, even though this is his debut in a Pirelli World Challenge, he will know that Lawson Archenbach is a really stout competitor, and Lawson Archenbach will not want to give away a victory in any way, shape or form. He'll be trying as hard as he can to maintain that number 1 position.
Watch the cars down through turn number 3, back onto the straightaway. You see them move a little bit. There's a big bump right there if you're right up against the wall. Drivers turn away from that as Piana, this is where that Porsche is shining now, under braking in the tight turns back and forth. The transitions get over through that bump right on the back bumper, and then once he gets over here back onto the straightaway, you'll see Lawson Archenbach stretch it out a little bit. So it really might take a mistake from Lawson, or Piana's going to have to be really close to the Camaro coming down the straightaway to try to get that draft.
Yeah, maybe outbrake him into turn 1, but as you say, that torque of the Chevrolet is crucial coming off the final couple of corners and onto the main runway here, which acts as a start-finish straight. But another great lap by Lawson Archenbach. He's really been pushed to the limit here. 1:19.3 last time around, just a 1/10 of a second away from his fastest lap of the race set on the previous tour around. Under braking once again, the Porsche came and closes right in on the tail of the Chevy, and then stretching its legs on the straight, the gap 2 lengths, 3 lengths, 4 lengths, probably half a dozen lengths or more as they come across the stripe. But as they head into turn 1, we're able to see there how much closer they are at the apex of turn 1, less than a car length between them.
8.5 minutes to go here in our session as Piana under attack against the Camaro GT4 of Lawson Archenbach, your 5-time Pirelli World Champion, defending champion in his Black Dog Speed Shop Chevy Camaro. Piana looking to the inside. I don't think you're going to rattle Lawson Archenbach at all, but the youngster probably doesn't know that. But you see, Lawson Archenbach knows how to get these races won. You said that earlier, Jeremy, and he's putting on a clinic here right now, just doing enough to stay in front of that Porsche.
Yeah, if he gets really brave down there at turn 4, it is certainly a potential place for Piana to make a move, because his car is going to be quite a bit quicker through turn 3, which is a very, very fast corner, and onto that straight, and he's able to carry the momentum through the corner. And if he can get really brave and perhaps lunge it down the inside under braking for turn 4, that might be one of the few opportunities he has. But Lawson Ascherbach, as I said, he's been around this place a time or two. He's won a few races here. He knows exactly what he needs to do to keep that Porsche behind him. We're inside 8 minutes now in this race.
Getting word that car 6-2, the McLaren of Mark Clinton, is off in turn number 4 in the runoff area. Because of the time here, they're letting him know that if he can get into a safer area would really be helpful, so we can keep under green here at the end.
Drew Stavely across the line there and into turn 1 in 3rd place in the number 12 Ian Lacey Racing Ginetta, and about 15-20 car lengths behind him, the 2nd place car in the GTSA, George Kurtz in the 04 Audi. Toby Grahovic looking to the inside of the Robinson Racing Mercedes into turn 1 of Shane Lewis, unable to make that stick.
Gotten word that the number 22, Marko Radicic, was slow through turn number 10, and you can see he get back underway, but not sure what happened to him as he is falling all the way back. And that car does not sound right, so it sounds like a mechanical or electrical problem there. A big misfire as he came down the straightaway.
Yeah, lost a lot of positions on that lap, didn't he? And here's James Sofronis. James Sofronis has finally worked his way up inside the top 10 again now. He just got past Nate Stacey on that lap, on that last lap. That's caliber 14, James Sofronis. He was dicing right up at the front in the early stages of this race, as on this lap, Lawson Ascherbach is held up by a slower car coming off that final corner. Is that going to give an opportunity for Piana to make a move? Answer, no.
Yeah, no, Steve Burns in that Ginetta, and Piana right there. Steve really being a lap car kind of needs to get out of the way of the leaders coming through. Race control was talking to him there, and he really kind of took him all the way down to the end. Didn't quite give him there, but Lawson Ascherbach and Piana really dropped the ball. Now you can see he's dropped back about 4 or 5 car lengths. Now he's going to have to really push it here with a little over 5 minutes to go in the session here. But the battle on for this, once again, the 6th position now with Shane Lewis, Toby Grahovic, and Vince Algaretta.
Yeah, right behind them, Mike Headland and James Sofronis, and Nate Stacey's in that group as well. Sofronis got a good run there off turn 3. Is he going to make a move on the short shoot down towards turn 4? He's looking to the inside. Is Sofronis? Yes, he makes that pass stick. 2 Audis there side by side into turn 4. It's Sofronis who comes out ahead of Headland. The battle for position on the racetrack, but not in the AM category. Headland is an AM, Sofronis is a pro. So Headland remains in the 4th place in AM, that category led by Drew Stavely in 3rd place overall. George Kurtz is 4th in the 2nd place car in that class, and Toby Grahovic 7th place overall in number 26 BMW.
We're trying to do the math here, looking at the times. Looks like we might have about 3 to 4 laps to go still in this race, and that's a long time around this 1.8 mile 14 turn course here for the Pirelli World Challenge. Round number 1 for our GTS and GTSA competitors. As you see, Vinny Algaretta in the Mustang. James Sofronis down to the braking zone. Oh, and James really hit him a little deep there, and Vinny kind of got cut out a little bit. He's going to be at risk for losing another position. Right behind him is Mike Headland now pressuring Vinny Algaretta in that PF Racing Ford Mustang.
And again, the Audi a little bit lighter. It weighs in at 3,483 pounds. It's about 70 pounds lighter than the Ford Mustang, and I think a little bit more nimble, able to make that move down the inside under braking for turn 1 was James Sofronis. The time the 2 leaders are battling away, they've this time again had a little bit of lap car trouble coming off that final corner for Lawson Ascherbach, once again using that grunt of the V8 power to extend his lead on the main straight over Gabriele Piana. 1 more lap in the lead. 30 laps now completed by our race leaders, 3.5 minutes remaining.
We talk about that race number 2, fastest race lap right now still goes to your leader right now, Lawson Aschenbach, at a 1:19.201. So Lawson Aschenbach, so far, provisional pole for race 2 tomorrow. Now is that chance to, you know you're not going to win, you know you're not going to be on a podium. You only got a couple laps left here. Let's see if we can get a good lap to get a good starting position for tomorrow. But if you're these two guys, you're battling it out as Piana right on the back bumper of Aschenbach coming through this tight section of the road course here.
Yeah, the north end of the racetrack there, the Porsche, so much more nimble than that big, heavy, rumbling V8 Chevrolet. Piana closes right up on the tails through those corners at the far end, but they get onto that straight there alongside the waterfront, and the Camaro pulls away again. It's going to be the same down here into 13 and 14. Piana in the Porsche is going to get closer and closer. Easy, though, going to drop back just a little bit like you were suggesting, give himself an opportunity to try and set the fastest lap in a race and ensure the pole position for tomorrow. I think he's still got his mind on trying to get the victory, though, hasn't he?
Well, it's only 55 thousandths of a second's difference in lap time between these two drivers as they're ready to try to get that done here. As you see a battle here with the number 23. K-Sit Motorsports, Adam Mirzon in his Audi R8, and Gar Robinson in that 74 Ranch Racing machine as they're battling for positions that go through. Getting word, white flag next time by for car number 1. Lawson Aschenbach will be getting that white flag. One more to go this next time by for your race leader. So Piana is going to have to try to make a move here. He's going to have about a lap and a half to go.
Leaders lapping very consistently in a 1:19. There's George Kurtz.
Yeah, 4th place overall. 2nd in our AM category is George Kurtz with a flat left rear tire. Not sure what happened there, but the guy that was running in your 2017 champ in our GTS AM category with a flat tire right at the end of the race. Devastating way to start your championship.
Certainly is. White flag waves, though. There's about 10-12 car lengths between the first and second place guys that go underneath the white flag. This will be the final time around. Just 1.8 miles to go for Lawson Aschenbach, looking for win number 25 in his Pirelli World Challenge career. Those 2 miles ahead. Here comes the 3rd place car now. Is Drew Stavely across the line. He goes to take the white flag. A big gap back from him also to now it'll be Jason Bell, won't it, in 4th position with George Kurtz having that problem. Yes, indeed it is. And Jason here now not too far ahead of the Robinson Racing Mercedes of Shane Lewis, who's got James Safona sniffing around the rear end of that car as well. He wants the way past. The battle for 5th and 6th.
Looking at Piana here in that Porsche. He's got a bit of a gap now down here in the braking zone. He's looking to have about 2 more corners to try to make this happen. Lawson Aschenbach turning the wick up a little bit, though, on that Camaro, trying to stay ahead of this Porsche. James Pesic in the Mustang right in front of them. Not sure if lap traffic's going to play a hand here in turn number 14. Doesn't look like it. It will be Lawson Aschenbach coming onto the front stretch. Piana got way in the braking zone, but this torque of this Camaro across the line, it's going to be Lawson Aschenbach, your 2017 champion, race winner here today.
Just half a second between those 2 cars of the checkered flag. Another fantastic drive there for Lawson Aschenbach. Once again, and the pole sitter doesn't come away with the victory, but it's a 2nd place finish for Gabriele Piana this afternoon. Lawson Aschenbach will win. And now waiting for the 3rd place car of Drew Stavely, who will be the GTSA winner. Across the line he goes for Ian Lacey Racing. A tremendous result for that team with that little Ginetta G55. Fine drive by Drew Stavely into the 4th position overall, the best result of his career. Tampa Bay's Jason Bell, and across the line it's James Safronis. Did make that move for 5th place on the last lap, but Shane Lewis holds on to 6th ahead of Vinny Allegretta, Mike Headland, Nate Stacey, and also Jeff Courtney was right in that battle as well, along with Tony Gaples. There's nose to tail all the way from 4th position effectively through 11th to 12th.
Well, you see the AM category go all the way back to Jeff Courtney. So Mike Headland getting 2nd place in the GTM category, and then Jeff Courtney getting 3rd in our GTS AM category in the Maserati with a 10th place overall finish. So that's your 1st, 2nd, 3rd in our AM. Drew Stavely Mike Hedlund on the podium. 50 cents per Twitter follower donated to a local charity now. Please start sharing that. Follow Mike Hedlund. He's got a little over 3,000 now, so that's a little over $1,500 going to a local charity.
Excellent. Good for you, Mike. Really, really good. Great drive as well. First time out in this Audi R8 LMS GT4 car. James Safronis too. What a comeback drive that was in car number 14. He was dicing right up amongst the podium position at the beginning of the race, involved in an incident down in turn 1. Had to rejoin at the back of the field. Came all the way through to finish in 5th position. That's James Safronis in the GMG car number 14.
Well, looking at the final race results, once again, congratulations to Lawson Aschenbach for your race winner today. Gabriel Piana, 2nd place in our pro category, 3rd place in our pro, 4th overall, Jason Bell. In our AM category, it was Drew Stavely in his Jannetta G55, 2nd place going to Mike Hedlund in that Flying Lizard Audi R8. And then how about in that X Analytics, Kinda, Rex Stuff, Maserati, Jeff Courtney from the JCR Racing Team. So, well, Jeremy, I'm not going to keep us here, keep going. You're about to freeze here and be a little popsicle, so we'll go ahead and let all the fans know how much we appreciate watching along worldwide at world-challenge.com. Please join us again tomorrow for round number 2 of our GTS class, as well as our GT to close out our weekend here at the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of St. Petersburg.
It's Joseph Newgarden.